how MPs plan to block Warsame's appointment. Wars between Parliament and the Executive on one hand and the Judiciary on the other have intensified after legislators insisted on vetting Justice Mohamed Warsame as a nominee to the Judicial Service Commission. Now, this is despite a court order and a directive from JSC that Mr. Warsame should not appear before the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. MPs now plan to write a report on the vetting. We do have two members of the National Assembly. Justice Warsame has been nominated by the Judiciary. Does he really have to be vetted by the National Assembly for him to sit on the JSC, or are we just playing politics with this Bonadan Manzo?
Well, I'm surprised by the turn of events, and in my own opinion, I think Justice Warsame really qualifies to join GSC. And well, if one wants to vet him, there must be a legal structure under which you'll vet him. If the matter has been to court and the court has ruled in his favor, I think it should be settled. But if they insist on vetting, or even one has public information or information which could lead to his disqualification, I think it should be scrutinized.
But of course, we've seen the kind of relationship between the Executive and the Judiciary. Matters came to a head even last week when the CS for Interior appeared before a committee of Parliament and called out the Judiciary once again. This is after Jubilee Party leader, Party Secretariat boss Rafael Tuju wrote a letter last year complaining about and accusing the Judiciary of bias. Go back a few months before, and we see President Uhuru Kenyatta promising the Judiciary that we will revisit after the nullification of the August 8th election. This could be seen as another attempt by the Executive using Parliament, using the National Assembly to get back at the Judiciary, simply saying that yes, we still have power over you. Jubilee Party has a majority in the National Assembly, and we will give you problems as a Judiciary. Don't you think so, Bwana Richard Onyo?
I think I would. I think for me, this is in fact another case where you find Parliament, where I sit, exposing itself to ridicule. The simple point here is that you have a court ruling on the Warsame matter. Justice Warsame hasn't been any more controversial than any other judge. I think his rulings have been quite reasonable, and he's a man who's respected, you know, across the board. Then you have certain individuals who maybe don't want him to be in the JAC for whatever reason. And I think the way my brother Manzo is saying, because he's in the Judicial Service Commision, I mean the Judicial Service
Legal
Justice Committee. Sometimes I think for us in Parliament, I don't know that we are unable to interrogate issues effectively and seriously and deeply and come up with a consensus, which is what should happen before such controversy comes up. I think we need to rethink the position we are taking on a matter like a matter of Justice Warsame. And I understand the issues which have been coming up from the Executive in terms of what is it that the Judiciary is doing. We saw what Minister Matiang'i discussed or said the other day. But we must be, as a country, accept that we are going to be a country for the rule of law. And we must, even when some of the rulings may not be favoring us, we must really be careful on the criticism and what we disagree with the Judiciary about. And also the Judiciary should be careful not to make some rulings which would make our country look like we are not actually a country that believes in the rule of law, and which gives the Executive the excuse, or Parliament the excuse also to attack it or to go against whatever rulings they have. I totally disagree with my colleagues in Parliament. I think we need to be very, very careful how we handle issues. I mean, it's not even just the Warsame issue only. I mean, you see the matter which is coming out on the compensation which is taking place for the property, yes, where Waraka High School is. And people are now saying members of Parliament were bribed. Some of them are extortionists. They are asking for millions of shillings so that these rulings can favor or can be tailored to suit certain interests. I think as a House, Parliament now needs to begin thinking very seriously on our role and our responsibility.
Yes. You're not in the National Assembly, but watching from outside, you may get a feeling like the National Assembly especially has reduced itself to a gang for hire. The way it's being used, probably now, it may be said that the executive is using the National Assembly to hit back at the judiciary. Yes, providing a platform for the CS, for Interior to actually just come and take time on live TV to attack the judiciary. Now we are seeing this, trying to even determine who from the judiciary should sit in the JSC. Don't you think that the National Assembly needs to be a bit more careful when it comes to such things?
Fred, thank you. And to quite a large extent, there's something that you've mentioned where you talked about the executive, using the parliament to attack the judiciary. And, we were just looking actually on this matter some time back when Matiang'i made the pronouncements that he made. And I was asking the fellows that we were seated with, because we were looking back at 2016, some of the sentiments that the former Chief Justice, Willie Mutunga, used to describe the judiciary. Well, he was the Chief Justice. And he didn't mince his words when he said there was an element of corruption within the judiciary. Justice Maraga the other day, all right, alluded to the very same, facts, where he would say, I think it was in 2017, early 2017, where he said something similar to what his predecessor had actually talked about the judiciary. And he went on to say there are elements within the judiciary that are giving judiciary a bad name. Is Parliament picking cue from there? Because if you look at what Matiang'i did say, Matiang'i was almost word for word repeating what those two Chief Justices, the former and the current, had actually said. So, to me, I thought there was double speak when people started actually shouting at Matiang'i, saying that he is actually chastising the judiciary, while we've had Chief Justices who've gone to say that. But coming to Parliament, what is happening is, it is indeed true that if we have a rogue Parliament, they can be used. All right, and at this point, they would take cue from an area where you try and find out. The judiciary has always existed, the JSC in particular, and when they come to selection of of judges of the Supreme Court and other areas, they almost have a free hand, a free rein, if you will, to pick or to do their businesses. And when you look at the Parliament saying, we are elected by the people. The executive, to an extent, the president and his deputy are elected by the people. But the judiciary is a conglomerate of a few individuals who come and put something together to even demean the executive and parliament. Now, that is where the politics comes into play.
Yes, there is a order in place.
Exactly. And I remember Justice Roslyn is the one who issued that. And she pointed out to the LSK, the petition that was actually filed by LSK, and she pointed out and said, it raises serious issues that needs to be debated upon. So I think if I was asked, politics aside, I think LSK would have been a house which would have guided us with probably a good judicial policy framework that would assist the vetting of these judges. But again, LSK, the political element we've seen in LSK, will they be able to do it? And then the other thing that we also have to ask and really interrogate is, where does this leave the politics side of things? Is Parliament just going to ease off? I don't think so. Is this the time that Parliament looks into the judiciary and said, we have a forum now to tame you? So I think we need to wait and see and actually put forward a face of ensuring that we have a judiciary that can actually pass, judgments and, their work done inhabited and without being twisted by by Parliament.
Okay.
But also, we need to find a solution that will not be so marked by the politics of our time.
You sit in that committee.
Yes.
Do you agree that, do you think or do you believe that that committee is being used to hit back at Parliament, at the judiciary, for any reason?
I don't think the committee is being used. In fact, it has a very balanced chair. And I want to also say that the independence of a judge cannot be taken away. There is already a court directive. It should be followed. We have a weakness of failing to follow court directives. And a court assesses, a situation and follows the law. And in the event a judge makes a mistake or fails to follow precedents or there's an error in the judgment, then one has a right to appeal. And that's what should have even happened with the Honorable Matiang'i. If he felt that the High Court was not fair to him, he should have appealed. But what happens with the contempt proceedings? You have to purge them in the first instance, even when you are going to appeal. So I think we have to be very careful with the three institutions: the judiciary, the executive, and parliament, so that there is a balance and there is independence, so that you don't find one institution being used to malign another or just for political expediency. If there is any evidence against Justice Warsame, then it should be presented in the right way and handled in the right manner. And if there is a mistake, an appeal will still be entertained, so that there is fairness. The judge has to be treated fairly too. It should not be politicized.
Yes. Now, the MPs have already sought background information from relevant state agencies, including the National Intelligence Service and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. The ESCC has already responded and said it has not carried out any investigations against or where Justice Mohamed Warsame has been found culpable. Yeah. So exactly. What is the reasoning by members of Parliament insisting that this has to go this way?
To be honest with you, Fred, this is where that statement of much ado about nothing comes in. I mean, Parliament needs to understand, and I've really been wondering lately on what our responsibilities are, and I don't know whether our brother Justin Muturi, the Speaker, is able to advise, because he has that capacity, and even the clerk. Parliament needs to understand that there are certain wars we don't have to fight. That there's a responsibility that we hold as a House representing the interests of the people, that we must be seen to be fair, even when we may want to show that we have a certain responsibility and to show our power, if you want to use that. But I think for me, the matter of Justice Warsame should be left to rest, for the simple reason that Justice Warsame is not somebody that came from nowhere yesterday. He's somebody who's been in the system. He's been High Court judge. He's somebody with very high credentials. So what the committee is trying to do baffles me, because I least expect them to doubt or question what is going on, unless there was an issue which we would be interrogating right now, or if there was a matter on corruption or something that we'll be discussing in the House at this particular moment, something that we were seized with.
Yes.
But right now there's nothing we are seized with about Justice Warsame.
It almost looks like a witch hunt.
Yes, it looks like a witch hunt. That's what we're saying. And I think we sometimes just need to move on. In this country we need to leave some things to rest.
The MPs now plan to write what they call a progress report, stating that they were unable to vet Warsame and therefore they cannot determine his suitability. This one
but in the real sense of things, who actually vets the judges? Where does Parliament come in?
There is a court order saying that he does not need to be vetted.
And you see, to me that's when now the politics come in. Are we going to say that Parliament will just disavow that court order? And like Mheshimiwa said, there is a habit of just, saying court orders for peace, So I think if the court has pronounced itself, albeit the fact that there are things, which Parliament may want to dig a little bit deeper. For instance, just as, being a layman, there are so many things that have happened that we would want to know. Why JSC have done what they've done, why LSK have done what they've done. You remember at one point the LSK, the chairman would issue this statement and the deputy chair would issue a different statement. They were speaking, from two sides of the mouth. But when it comes to the issues of Warsame, who is right in this context? Is there an urging? Is there an issue that Parliament is trying to reach or overreach? Is Parliament feeling, or are they, pronouncing some sort of a feeling that Justice Warsame is being protected by the same law courts? Is that what is going on? Do they feel like they can't overreach that which they want to question and probably dig deeper? I believe that's what is in play at this point. And probably they would feel, there is an element of protecting this individual. And, if it comes or if it plays into that arena, I can guarantee you, Fred Ndumuli, it will be a lose-lose situation.
Yes. What would you advise your committee to do? There's a court order already out. Your colleagues, you're part of that committee, insist that you have to go on with this. You are a lawyer. You're an officer of the courts. What would you advise that committee to do? You sit in the National Assembly.
I will be advising the committee, and as I told you, it has a very well-balanced chair that first of all, there should be fairness. Secondly, we must respect court orders, because court orders, courts look at all sides of the story. And thirdly, intelligence reports and that sort of digging out information, the ESCC, have not had any of the parliamentary committees use intelligence reports on anybody. Those are for government consumption, for private information, and intelligence is supposed to be for protection of the state, from aggressive attacks. So I think the committee has gone beyond its limits, and I believe, as I told you, it's a reasonable committee, and whatever a parliamentary committee does must go to the floor of the House. I believe this is a matter whereby the law must be followed, court orders respected, and we do work within our mandate. The standing orders says to what extent can we handle matters and prepare reports. Is already limited to a certain law of the House, and that's what should be followed. In all fairness, I think Justice Warsame has done good to this country. He deserves to sit in the GSC.
Okay. Let's let that matter rest